Hey there. So it's a lovely rainy day here in Point McKenzie, Alaska, which is great. I'm happy. Yesterday it was brutally hot, 70 degrees. Me and Glenn were out there sweating like dogs. So I always love to see rain after that. But because it's rainy and I have a rare moment of downtime, I did want to just talk about what ag in Alaska is like. Just a 5-minute brief overview, and happy to answer any questions. Alaska has 875,000 acres of farmland, which, those who don't know, is not a lot. For instance, there's the King Ranch in Texas. That's 850,000 acres, and that's just one ranch. We are the biggest state. Texas is our tiny friend, but they do have about 144 times the amount of farmland we do. So number one is Alaska has very little farmland. In fact, I'm going to look up. I think we're the smallest. Maybe Hawaii has less, but I'll look that up and let you guys know. So most of the ag, and I say most, I don't want to discount everyone working hard in Kenai or Ninilchik or Nenana or Fairbanks, but the lion's share takes place in two areas, which is Delta Junction and Matanuska Valley. I am in the Matanuska-Susitna Valley, and there are quite a few farmers out in Delta, which is, we're able to grow a lot more, I think, barley out there than we are here. So challenges of farming in Alaska. Obviously, and number one is the short growing season, 100 to 120 days, depending on the year. So many crops in the lower 48, especially like corn or whatever, just aren't going to grow here. There's not enough time, at least at a commercial level. And those that do grow, you have a very, very short window. So any weather events, any machines breaking, it can be devastating because you only got X amount of time to get it up. Climate wise, at least in Mat-Su, it is a rainforest, so there's a lot of rain, and that can be challenging when you're in hay like I am. So, for instance, I think 2 years ago it was just a rainy summer, and before that it was a very dry spring, and the hay season was horrible. And hay prices up here were fetching $1,000 a ton. Before you buy a ticket and buy a farm in Alaska, that's not common, and it's not like it was good on the farmers either. At that point, you have to choose between feeding my own animals or I'm selling hay. So that is the biggest challenge. Number two is everything's imported, from net wrap to fertilizer to farm equipment. It comes on a train, a plane, or a boat, or a truck. So unless you're willing to make that drive yourself, which you can, I can do a whole video about the Alaskan and the challenges and the fun of it. But you can expect to pay, my rule of thumb is it's the Alaska tax, 30% on top of everything. Now, you do get to turn around and sell your commodities for a bit more because of that, and that's just Alaska in general. This is not a pro or a con, but the farming community is very small. It's a good thing and a bad thing, but for instance, I got 467 out there that needs a new PTO shaft, $2,600. So, it'd be nice if I knew a guy who knew a guy, or had a neighbor who just had a parts one, and I could buy that old PTO shaft off of him. But you take what you can get up here. So why Alaska? Number one, it's kind of a dumb answer, but Alaskans will get me here. It's Alaska. The best views, the best hunting, the best fishing, all right here in the state. Wide open, not a lot of people. Unfortunately, if you farm, you sacrifice almost your entire fishing season, which is a bummer. That's my favorite. Big shout out to my customers. They're sympathetic of this fact, and they will bring me some fish from time to time. So at least I still get to eat it, but I don't get to fish it, which is the fun part. The second big reason is you can actually enter the market. There's an asterisk there, kind of. Land is rare up here, so it's a challenge to find. I'm in Mat-Su. I could also do a whole video on or bring someone who knows more than me in, because it's pretty interesting history. It was a colony, and that's Palmer was the colony, and that's where the original ag community was built around. Palmer is now a nice town, and so we have the same issues in the lower 48, where it's your land is now worth 10 times what you could ever make farming it around that area. But anyway, the land we have is rare, and then, you know, the land put up for ag is not always perfect. Like I said, it's a rainforest. There's a lot of clearing that goes on, and soil issues and whatnot. But focus on the positive. Unlike the lower 48 in farmland areas, you can still enter the market as a family. It's a big risk still, but the land will pay for itself if you do if you do everything right. Which, you know, is pretty rare, I think, in the lower 48 now. Is ag land has become so expensive that only the big players can afford to stay in the game, and family farms are getting kind of priced out, which is a shame. I could do an entire series on that, but I'd probably have the government at my door. There's a lot to unpack with that. I could talk for hours about it, but you can still start a farm here if you get a little bit lucky and you work your ass off. So that's the other reason I chose Alaska. And then lastly is the community. Like I said, it's a very small ag community, but a very good one. Every bale of hay that I sell stays in the state, and it goes to feed somebody's cow that then goes to a milk share or a beef share. Kids 4-H pig or sheep, a family's pair of horses. It's a very awesome and humbling experience to be a part of that. And I love it. You know, this isn't big ag where I'm selling per ton to a feedlot. This is, you know, I know their kids, and I know their animals' names, and I can't wait to see them at fair if I have time. Our fair is kind of smack dab in the middle of harvest, which is unfortunate. But anyway, if there's any customers watching, I want to thank you personally. You're like one of the reasons I love farming here. And lastly, I'll spin another positive on another negative. Is yes, the growing season is short, but it is intense. You know, 20 hours of daylight almost, which is insane. You look and there's 5 feet of snow outside, and you're like, oh man, this is never gonna go away. And then miraculously, it's all gone, and boom, immediately it's getting green outside, and nature doesn't wait around. It knows what it's doing up here, and it's been doing it a long time, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun farming in such an intense growing season. Now, this doesn't quite translate to like pasture crops, but you can grow some crazy stuff up here. You know, there was a 38-pound broccoli, 140-pound cabbage, 170-pound watermelon, 40-pound radish. Like it's intense. That 20 hours of daylight is great. You know, and if in Alaska, if you're bailing into the night, that's a long day because it's probably about 2 a.m. So like I said, this is just a brief, looking like 10-minute now video on ag in Alaska. And, you know, I'm not a native of here. I've lived here about 15 years now, though, but I come from a different farming state. And so I think it's very interesting how ag survives up here. And I say survives, it's not quite thriving, not quite where we'd all like it to be, but the folks in it and the way it can happen up here is interesting. Hope you find it interesting too. If you have any questions, let me know. And Alaskans, if I left anything out, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. It's been Farming Alaska.